Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Third Impact Anime Podcast. It's been a while since we've talked to you like this, and we're coming back here talking to you with another Con-versations episode. I am Anime Weekend Austin, and I am joined by two fantastic co-hosts.
It's Tori, hello.
And I'm Tobias. I'm still fatigued, still tired 2 weeks later.
From the convention and Extra Life and the time change, all sort of happening in what feels like a 48-hour period, even though it was like 3 weeks. It is pretty exhausting. So if we sound a little bit out of it on this podcast, well, that's just the Third Impact Anime difference.
As they say, the years start coming and they don't stop coming.
And they don't stop coming.
And they don't stop coming.
All right. Well, typically on these episodes, we sort of have a structure where we talk about our experiences at a convention in sort of a chronological order, but we wanted to shake things up a little bit and just sort of talk about whatever we felt like we had to say about the con, sort of in whatever order we were inspired to do so. So I guess first off, starting out, we'll give a little bit of context. So all of us have been, to one degree or another, longtime Anime Week in Atlanta attendees. Some of us much longer than others, but we haven't been since, I believe, 2019, because both the pandemic and just general life stuff and other priorities sort of kept us away for a while, but we were finally able to return this year. We did a few panels. I did two. I did my anime movies panel and my Spider-Man panel. I've done the anime movies one before at AWA, but not the Spider-Man one. And Tori did your Junji Ito panel.
Mm-hmm.
And Tobias did absolutely nothing the whole weekend. He just slept in the hotel and snored the whole time, and it was great.
Oh, I snored now. Now it's a problem. Okay.
Well, you just sounded like you were enjoying yourself, and I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, this is the first AWA in a bit that I haven't done panels. The first convention in a bit that I haven't done any panels. I was not entirely sure I was going to get to go at first. It was one of those maybe, maybe not situations, and I didn't want to put in any panels that I have to cancel. I really don't like to cancel, things that I've already signed up for. So with FanFest earlier in the year, I knew that was the only definite must do for me. And but no, I was able to go, and glad that I did, because this is the last AWA at the Galleria. At the Renaissance Waverly. It's just not something that I knew was going to happen. I think it's been talked about for years, rumored, but not actually set in stone until this weekend. So I'm very glad in retrospect that I made a point to go.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we actually did something that I've kind of wanted to do for a really long time for our Con-versations episodes, where I took a few minutes to record a little bit of the word on the ground, so to speak. And I asked you about that specifically on Saturday night as we were overlooking the sea of people in the lobby of the Renaissance Waverly Hotel. So I'm going to play that segment so you can listen to what you said then, and then you can respond to yourself, and we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. Okay, so this is Austin. I'm here again. And Tobias, as many people know, you are very old. Is that correct?
Relatively, yes. With the people around me, yes. I'm very, very ancient.
Right. So you've been coming to Anime Week in Atlanta since 2004. How long has it been in this location?
I think it was a year before I started going, I want to say. Dave said 20 years, and this will be 19th I'm going. So almost the entire run here at the Renaissance Waverly, I've been here.
So how are you feeling about the fact that we are about to leave this location behind, probably forever, more than likely, yes?
A lot of mixed feelings, of course. A lot of feelings here. I feel like this is the end of an era, both for Anime Week in Atlanta and for myself. And I think it's going to take a lot of time for me to process those feelings.
Yeah. So in the process of you processing your feelings, how has your weekend been so far? Because you're not doing panels, so what the heck are you doing with yourself?
Reminiscing, looking around, seeing all these youngins running around and screaming, and how things have changed. And
Are you talking about me?
You're one of them. Yeah, you're one of the youngins, for sure. But yeah, it's been an interesting experience. But I guess I'm glad that I didn't work myself to the bone like I normally do. I'm glad that I had time to stop and smell the roses, as you would say, and take it all in.
Yeah, okay. I think that's all for now. Is there anything else you want to say on this very impromptu section of the podcast? We're looking at a lot of tingles right now.
Yeah. I would say stop smoking, kids. It's bad for you.
Okay, and with that word, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Stop smoking, kids. It's bad for you.
It is indeed. How about that? It feels like it was only yesterday when I was saying those words.
That's a good movie. Only yesterday.
The best Ghibli film. Don't quote me on that.
Yep. So, is there anything you wanted to add to your segment? Any other additional feelings? And you too, Tori. I mean, if you wanted to chime in on that.
I don't know. The reminiscing part, for sure. It's like, I was thinking about that kind of on our way home a little bit, about how I've definitely not been to as many Anime Weekend Atlantas, but just a handful of ones that I've been to, kind of how it's evolved, how the people that I've gone with have evolved and changed, and the friend groups that I would go with, and it's just all very different, and kind of seeing that chapter sort of come to a close and start something new is very interesting, and I'll be excited to see what the future holds for their new space and kind of all of the things they have to work out with all of that. So
yeah, that's definitely one thing that in my own convention going experiences, I've never really had a big venue change moment yet. Like going to Animazement, I came maybe a year or two after they had made their big move from their original location at the Raleigh Sheraton to where they have been for as long as I've been going there at the downtown Raleigh Convention Center, and some of the other smaller conventions I've been to, they just haven't really made as strong of an impression on me. So if they move venues, I don't really notice, or it doesn't really affect me that much. But for a really big convention like Anime Weekend in Atlanta, which to me is probably the second most meaningful convention to me, because it's the one that I think is the coolest and the most fun, and I've got the most cool memories at, apart from Animazement. It's definitely going to be weird, because I think a lot of our convention experiences are very, very tied to the space that they're in, because you associate certain memories with certain things happening in certain places. One thing I talked about in a little brief segment that we're going to play in a second is how much I love the concert hall in main events at Anime Weekend Atlanta. It's so nice to have that massive room where Dave Merrill does Anime Hell and where they do all the concerts, and there's always plenty of seating in there. And I'm going to kind of miss that if that's not something that they have available sort of going forward, because if it feels like it's sort of out in the middle of the nowhere and harder to get to, then it's not going to be the same. It's not going to feel as chill. It's not going to feel as special, I guess. And that's just one example. I could probably think of some others for sure.
It's funny you mentioned that, because with my experience with time passing, main events, I don't know if they even had really concerts back then. I mean, of course they did, but main events used to be in the Waverly, in that sort of room, that ballroom over to the side of, I was going to say the registration, but it's not even registration anymore. They moved the registration to the movie theater, where they have the viewing rooms, the movie viewing room. That's one big ballroom, and that used to be main events. And hell,
wait. They were showing anime and screenings in the movie theater?
No. So where registration used to be, in the main lobby of the Waverly.
Yeah.
So you have the VAT, the AMV room, but over to I guess the left of that, you have the two rooms that now, well, up till now, have been the red carpet room and the viewing room. That's all one big ballroom. They split it into two the past few years, but it's one big ballroom. And that used to be where main events was.
Oh, I see.
It was, while large, it was nowhere near as large as where it is currently in the Galleria, for sure. But, I mean, those rooms used to be during stuff like the AMV contest, like Anime Hell, that would fill up, and there would be standing room only in a huge ballroom. So it is kind of funny to hear you to reminisce on the new main events room that is spacious, that is nice, when it used to be a lot more packed. Even what, like, I was going to say 5 years ago, it's probably closer to 10 now. Having this, the way things change, and I feel like for me that already has started.
Tobias,
changing.
5 years ago was 2018. That's
exactly.
still that's contemporary.
Exactly. The pandemic ate a few years completely, which is what throws me off for sure. But like you mentioned, reminiscing on that and how you hope it changes forward in the future. Like, well, my thinking is that it already has changed since what I would, for my personal glory days of AWA. I know that there were my first year was AWA 10, so there was a decade before I started going. Even, and I want to say they had a couple of different venue changes before, so just the way things have changed in my limited view, the 20 years that I've been going is it already started changing to begin with, and this move to the GWCC is certainly a necessary move, but I kind of feel like the culture has changed, and not necessarily for the worse or better even, but I already see that change happening, which I think is what kind of struck me this weekend when I mentioned that, and then putting a official end to that era of AWA. It's, I can see the future. I can see it's a good move. I certainly won't contest that. But it's like, you go back and look at your old high school, you go back and visit, and how it feels familiar to you, but it's not anymore. It's not really your haunt anymore. And I think that's what kind of struck me when we recorded that on Saturday, is this isn't really my convention anymore. And to a degree, this isn't really necessarily my fandom anymore. There's a certain era that I'm always going to be stuck in, to a degree. And sure, I can evolve and change and, get better and not be the curmudgeon that's stuck in time. But there's always going to be a part of me that is going to be stuck there. That is, there's a part of me that will leave a part of my heart there in the Renaissance Waverly. And it sounds kind of silly to say, but 19 years, that's literally been my entire adulthood. I started going the 6 months after I graduated high school. So my entire adulthood has been going to this convention. And that, combined with a lot of the existential stuff going after the pandemic, I do feel like I'm entering another era of my life. And this just happens to be a more physical representation of that than just thinking about it.
Change is inevitable, and with change it comes endings, but it comes with beginnings as well. So sort of on that note, as we continue to talk about the transition of Anime Week in Atlanta, leaving its longtime location, I've got another segment from the floor, this time with a really cool special guest. So let's take a listen to that. Hello, listeners. This is Austin, recording a very impromptu segment of the Third Impact Anime Podcast here on the floor of Anime Week in Atlanta in, where are we? Atlanta? Georgia? And North Carolina, apparently. Due to my own mistake in not changing my notes in my Spider-Man panel, I erroneously referred to this state as North Carolina, because the last time I did that panel, it was at Animazement, and you should always look over your panel notes more carefully than I do. So I wanted to ask you guys, since this is, who am I here with? I'm Austin. I've got Tori with me.
Hello.
And I've got a former guest on the podcast, and a cool guy who was on the show for our Girls Last Tour episode a while back. I've got Robbie Bokusachi, or however you call yourself.
Hello. Yoroshiku ne.
And we've all got some panels. We're just standing around here waiting for Tori's last panel here on this Saturday night. And this is the last, we're overlooking the very loud balcony in the, where are we, the Renaissance Waverly Hotel. And this will be the last year
that animes will be held at this location. And judging by the crowdedness of the hallways, it's probably for the best that that they're going to be moving on to somewhere downtown. Do either of you have familiarity with the new location at all? Nope. No idea. No. Well, it should be interesting for sure. But I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think what do you think you like about this space the most, and what do you think you'll miss the most about being in this space for Anime Week in Atlanta?
I feel like it's an unpopular opinion, but I do like the layout of it. I like how it kind of keeps traffic in each end, and then there's the flow in the middle. However, it does get very congested on the weekends, but I like the layout between the Galleria and the Renaissance Waverly, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I like it too. I mean, I think there's a lot of like individual flourishes of this space that make it neat. Like, I like the mall kind of is not in its prime where it has, a lot of the panel rooms above it. Like, a lot of restaurants have left and stuff, but it is still nice to like have that area to be able to walk around, be able to stretch. But it's also like, it can be kind of confusing to navigate sometimes, especially because I haven't been around here since like 2019, and I know that's a me thing, but it's like, it can be very, I don't know, like a big, weird convention octopus. I don't know. What do you think, Robbie?
I mean, one of the things that I like is how, I really like the layout of the Artist Alley dealer's room and like where that's placed in the convention. I feel like that's a really good thing. I'm able to just kind of walk over there from my panels, and that's another thing is that all the panel rooms are like right next to each other. So you can see.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, so you can see like, oh, I'm gonna just go check the schedules for the room next to me and see if there's anything interesting going on. But also like, there is, it's a kind of, I got some kind of mixed feelings where it's like, it's kind of annoying going out, having to go outside to go between the buildings, but also it leads me right to the food trucks. And so that is, sometimes it's nice to be able to just go and grab a snack. Like I just grabbed a corn dog on my way to a panel earlier today. So that was a pretty good time.
How was the corn dog?
It was good. Good corn dog.
I didn't have a corn dog today, if that's what you're asking me.
No, I guess maybe I should have had a corn dog as well. But yeah, I mean, I think with any move to a different place, it comes with challenges. Like, I don't know what parking is going to look like at the next space. I don't know anything. I'm just kind of open for the ride. But to kind of something adjacent to your point, like, I really like how because like Tori and I have gone to like 3 concerts during this weekend, and like
yeah, that's good too. The main event is like right there.
Yes.
And you can just walk in and go to the concert.
Yes.
And I have no idea who this band is, but hey, this sounds pretty cool. I can hear it from out here.
And there's so many chairs. You can always find a seat. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, like an Animazement, for example, like going to a concert is it's like, there's so many hoops to jump through. Like, you have to go check your bag, and it's in like a big dealer's hall that's like
standing room only.
Yeah, like there's no chairs or anything. And like I was telling Tori, I was kind of joking around. I was just like, it's kind of weird to be able to say that like the place to go chill and relax and have a nice quiet time is like during a very loud concert. Which is kind of true, because there's not always the best places around here to like sit and gather, because I don't want to spend any time in the Waverly lobby, because that's where everybody seems to think that they want to hang out. Like, we're looking at it right now on the balcony, and I'm just like, I'm so glad we're up here.
Chaos down there, like absolute chaos.
It's just a sea of cosplayed bodies. They're just everywhere, and some like brewery tents with some like giant Jujutsu Kaisen cutouts advertising their IPAs, which is kind of hilarious.
It's Gojo.
It's Gojo, and it's like the panda, right?
Maybe. I didn't see the panda.
Yeah, the panda's like right over there. It's on the other side.
Oh, okay.
I thought I saw some other ones too, but I'm not sure. Is Gojo even old enough to drink? I haven't seen that
He's
show.
an adult, yes.
Oh, okay, well that's good to know. That's good to know. But yeah, I think that's all. That's all I have to say.
We were talking about the concerts earlier, and like, one of the things that I love about AWA is that they always get such good musical guests. Even if I like don't know who they are, I will often just like stop into a concert because, well, it's so accessible to go into the concert. You don't need to get like separate tickets. You don't need to go to a separate venue. It's all just right there. You can hear, oh, there's a cool band playing. I want to listen to them. And every year, AWA seems to get like these really good musical guests. And so I found out about like some pretty cool bands just by coming here and finding out that they were on the docket.
Yeah, like some of the artists this year I was familiar with, like Asaka did the Laid Back Camp opening and things like that, which I was already familiar with. And Femme, you were a fan of already, right, Tori?
Yeah, I got to see Femme. I never thought that would happen in like a million years. I've been listening to them since I was like a teenager, and I never thought that would happen. So very cool. They always nail it with the musical guests, and even if it's not somebody I recognize, like it's still fun to go and listen, because we did that tonight with Ano, and like she totally ruled. So that was awesome.
She did in fact rule. This is a true statement. That's been this brief segment from Third Impact Anime, reporting from the floor. We'll talk to you later, friends. Goodbye.
I didn't have a corn dog that weekend.
You didn't? Well, neither did I. I never corrected that mistake.
Now I feel bad.
Do I sound like that all the time?
You do sound like that all the time.
Oh, God. Okay.
You mean this talking about K-pop? Yeah.
You didn't mention K-pop a single time.
I didn't mention K-pop a single time, actually. Thank you.
Oh, well, actually.
Tobias just assumes that everything that comes out of your mouth is tangentially K-pop related. So
whatever.
I don't know if that's
the wrong assumption.
I don't know if that says more about him or more about you, but I'm not going to speculate.
We'll let the crowd decide.
Let the crowd decide. Exactly.
I guess to key up the point Tori was making in the clip, that I am kind of like astounded by the caliber of musical guests they have been getting the past few years. You know, it's always been kind of one or two, you know, sort of, I wouldn't say random, but kind of one or two people that you would hear that were in the, you know, anime music sort of scene. But it seems like the past few years they've really punched, I don't even know if I'd say punched above their weight class, but certainly hit that weight class. With this year, like you mentioned, Femme. For me, the big thing was Toriana show up, a small little indie producer that I've been following for over a decade, and that reminds me, hell, 2008 they had Omodaka, another early sort of chip producer that I was into, sort of almost like randomly showed up to that. So it is kind of astounding that they have been able to get these guests to come out to Atlanta, Georgia, this anime convention. And I have no doubt that they're going to continue to do that. Of course, I'm sure the venue is going to be even larger and will be able to accommodate even more. But that's something I do want to point out, that AWA has certainly done right over my lifetime as a caliber of music guest.
Yeah, that's one of the things that has always attracted me to AWA. I was not aware of Femme until they were announced as guests for this convention, and then a bunch of people chimed in and said, a bunch of people meaning Tori and of course, and others said, "Oh my gosh, it's Femme. I thought they were disbanding." And I was just like, what? So they got a group that is like on their way out, like officially going to retire, at least from this musical project, sometime like next year. And I was just like, well, dang, that's pretty amazing then, that they would get, a band that's like on their way out to come all the way here from Japan to perform as like one of their last shows maybe ever. They could always...
Sorry, completely tangential to distract you for a second, but like they freaking had Miyavi one year. I just remembered that.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, like that was really incredible, and probably my biggest want for going this year, like, was like, okay, I gotta go see Femme. I've been listening to Femme forever, followed their career for a really long time, and when else would I get a chance to go and do this? So I don't know, like, it just astounds me regularly kind of what they do. I am always in awe of like the guests they bring, but they did have a K-pop group one year. It was Pixie. I think that was the year I didn't go, and
I think I remember that.
So there's my K-pop aside for this episode.
Oh, it won't be your only one.
Mm-mm.
I'm sure we'll see more of that in the years to come. It feels like fandom as a whole is leaning toward the Korean side of things. I feel like these sort of, I hate to say like Asian fandom, but it feels like a lot of people are moving from Japan to Korea as far as interests are concerned, just broadly. So I would not doubt if we were to see more of that, in the next few years, for sure.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just all
absolutely.
becoming part of the big pop culture soup. And, I think there's a lot of merit in not sectioning off things, but sort of creating barriers so that, more obscure things don't get lost in the shuffle of things that are more popular. But there is some merit to see, the melting pot continue to expand and pull in some different fandoms that are like adjacent to, the anime zeitgeist and whatnot.
I mean, hell, you go to the artist alley we did on Sunday, and how many artists had like prints and stuff for K-pop bands?
I wish
There
you
were
could
quite
see
a
the face
few.
I just made.
Good for you, yeah.
I actually bought stickers, bought some K-pop related stickers, and then there was an artist that I bought something from at Animazement there, and I was like, "Hey, I have your keychain," and she was like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, you had it on your bag.
I had it
right
on
at
my
that very
bag,
moment. Yep.
yeah.
Mhm. Well, to kind of go back to what you said about Toriana being there, she was one of the artists that I actually did not get to see perform. We saw 3 artists, and unfortunately, she was not one of them because she plays the rave pretty much, and
Taku Takahashi and was it Teddy Lloyd they had as well? They had
Teddy
3
Lloyd's
teams.
there
Yes.
like every year now.
yeah, he is. He's been there basically every year since like, I don't know, I want to say like 2016, which is kind of amazing in its own regard. But yeah, I did not have it in me to stay
It was
up that
past our
late.
bedtime.
Oh,
Way
yeah,
past our bedtime.
Because I'm like Fem and
Asaka.
Asaka. Yeah, I was gonna say Asuka. Like that's not right. Asaka.
That's right.
Yeah, they didn't have like
Osaka from Azumanga Daioh.
I mean, Asuka was there.
She was there too.
true.
I'm sorry.
we got to see Tiffany a little bit. I didn't really get to speak with her, but saw her from across the way. But yeah, no, unlike the other music guests, Toriana, Tadaloid, and Taku Takahashi didn't have their own concert. They were all part of the big Saturday rave. And it did start late. I passed by the line several times wandering the halls. And we had just gotten out of Tori Junji Ito panel, and I think we were all ready to just go home and crash at that point.
Yeah.
Can I?
And at that point,
Oh, go ahead. Are we going to aside about panels at some
yeah,
point?
of course. Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
cool. Then I won't go off on it now.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
think
I didn't.
kind of bringing it back to getting older. It just there was a point where I could stay up Saturday night and go hang out in the lobby and get drunk off my ass. I've more than once walked those halls barely coherent, and just the thought of
Same.
doing that now is like, oh man, it was midnight and I was ready to go home. My feet were killing me. I was tired. It was so awful. I can't imagine
See, now
doing that now.
Now Tobias just walks the halls at around 1 p.m. being barely coherent rather than 1 a.m. But I didn't really feel all that bad about missing Toriana's concert because on Friday we were able to get in her fairly short autograph line and go meet her. So that was nice. And Tobias, it's all thanks to you that I even became a Toriana fan in the first place, because I remember you were playing one of her music videos. It's the one where she's got the really big bow on her head. I can't remember what song that is.
080 controller with
Yes.
you know me, yeah. Yeah, I've listened to
I
her
remember
stuff
you-
early on. It was very, very Chip inspired. She's kind of moved away from that over the past few years, and I understand why. I miss it though. I miss the earlier Chip stuff just broadly. But that's kind of there was a period in the scene at that point that just doesn't really exist anymore. I don't feel like anymore. And here's the point where I get to be a music snob. I'm like, man, I remember when back in the day they were better back then. The early stuff, the indie stuff was better back then. But yeah, I don't. And I got to meet her. I got to, she had a translator there. It was kind of loud, so I don't really know if she translated accurately. But I got to tell her I've been listening to her since 2013, since Shitbrain Girl, and tell her I appreciate her music. So I hope that came across to her.
I'm sure it did. Yeah, I told her that because she had her hair dyed like black and orange, and I told her that she looked like she was ready for Halloween, and then she, through her translator, said, yeah, I often forget my hair looks like that, and I thought that was really funny. yeah, in addition, we were able to meet all but one of the concert artists that we saw this weekend, and both Fem, whenever we met them, and Asaka spoke basically fluent conversational English. Asuka even more so, because she apparently spent a long portion of her childhood living in Michigan. So that was really cool. And Fem, I'm like a relatively new fan of. Tori, I know you've been the fan for a longer time, but it was nice to meet them. But for me, meeting Asaka and seeing her perform was like really, really special because of how much I love Laid Back Camp and have for a good number of years. So to see her play basically all the songs that she did for Yuri Camp was really special, including the theme song from Room Camp, which is a fairly underrated and often forgotten entry in that franchise. It's like shorts that were released between seasons 1 and 2, and it has a really cute I think it's called like Sunshine or something, like Sun Shower, something like that. But anyway, it's a really cute song. I'm glad she played it live, and man, she really knew how to work that crowd.
Yeah.
She asked them on stage, she was like, do you guys want me to speak in Japanese or English? And they were like, both. And she did.
Yeah, I was really impressed by everybody's crowd work. Meeting Fem, I could have died right there in that moment and have been set. I was laughing because they asked me what my favorite song was, and I was like, oh, it's definitely Fuck Boys Get Money. And I was like, but I feel really bad for saying that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. And they were like, oh my God, that's so cute.
It's their song.
I know. And I was like, sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. And they were like, no, that's so cute. That's really funny. And I was like, okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah, they were sweet.
They were very, very lovely. The guest interactions I think we had all weekend were really good. I have had my fair share of very interesting guest interactions through the years and conventions, and I think this year it was just so good.
Can I use this as my opportunity to complain about something?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I understand why, and I'm very sensitive to that because I get it. Being a working actor is hard, especially if that's like you don't want, if it's like that's what you want your career to be. You don't want to do like side jobs or whatever, and you shouldn't have to. Like, you should be able to do one job and be able to live off of that. Now, that being said, I do find it a little bit, I guess, a little bit disappointing that, it used to be back pre-pandemic.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, you could go to an anime convention and there would be like designated signing times where you could like bring your stuff to the English dub actors of your favorite English dub actor of your choice or what have you, and they would sign your things, and they would have stuff available for sale, and you could buy stuff if you wanted like a custom print or something like that, but they would like sign your stuff or like your convention book or something like for free. And I thought that was always a great selling point for anime conventions over like Comic-Cons, which we lovingly or maybe hatefully refer to as celebrity petting zoos. And I really enjoyed that as a sort of contrast to be like, oh, I can come and I can meet, the voice of whomst ever, and they can sign my thingy for free. And if I wanted something else like a print or whatever, that would be an extra charge, and I would have no problem paying for that. But now we exist in a point where pretty much all of the English dub actors, like, they charge to sign even the things that you bring them, regardless if you buy one of their products or not. And the Japanese guests sign for no charge. And I'm just like, well, this seems just so backwards. And like, I know I'm complaining. I understand why they have to do it, because most of the time they have to live in, very large cities like New York or LA. And it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to make a living off of being an actor, especially small scale like this. So they got to supplement their income somehow. But I'm going to complain about it anyway, gosh darn it, because I remember the days where it wasn't like this. Okay, end of rant. Am I done now? Does that sound fair and balanced? I think is that a reasonable take? Am I just whining now? I don't know.
No, I mean, the thing that you're kind of missing is that a lot of that comes out to contract terms. Like it used to be that they would come out, they basically, the commission would pay the voice actors, the guest, a little bit more and tell them, okay, you don't charge for autographs at our convention. You just come as you are. We pay you a little more. But because guest relations is so much larger now, because, every voice actor for every cartoon is such a big name now, and they're so well known, they make more money by taking a smaller cut from the convention, but charging you $10, $15, $20, whatever, for those autographs. So it's just a way that the way that the Broadway fandom has changed now. That because it's such
they
a
should
big...
change that for me specifically.
You and you alone.
Well, I mean, the issue is that because everyone is an anime fan now, because it's so big, it's one of those double-edged swords. It's great to be part of the mainstream pop culture. It's great that everybody's watching stuff on Netflix now, and the kids are getting into it. It's nice that Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia and whatever are just part of pop culture, but you do lose that sort of counterculture, subculture edge that we grew up on to a degree. And it's AWA has always been big as far as I've been going, but it's certainly not been as big as it is now.
You kids get out of my stuff. I want my free autographs. Go away. Go back to your 5 nights at Fortnite.
Stop liking anime, please.
Stop liking anime, please. That should be the new tagline for the Third Impact Anime podcast.
Stop liking what I like because you're inconveniencing me.
Exactly. That was the point of my entire rant. It's a very, very selfish, very mean-spirited me for once.
Yes.
But it's funny you mentioned that, and it comes up on the AW episode, because it made me think of Amy Howard Wilson. So Amy Howard Wilson was one of the voice actresses for Star Blazers way back in the day. And she took to anime fans and the fandom very, very soon after Star Blazers became such a big thing, to the point where she met her future husband at AWA. And for a long time, when I was still, still pretty fresh on the scene, I would go to Star Blazers panels or Yamato panels just because, it's something to do, something to step into, to see what it is. And it was always full of, the older crowd. And they would always do the Star Blazers meetups at AWA specifically. And she, Amy, and Dave would show up and be part of that. And unfortunately, Amy passed in 2021. But for a while there, the regular Star Blazers meetup was a thing at AWA. And hell, again, voice actor meeting your future partner through fandom. Now we've got, they're part of the customers now. You have to keep them at arm's length. You have to charge them for autographs. It's just so wild to think how that has changed.
Oh, sure. I mean, I totally get that. And to an extent, like, I understand that too, because these actors are so much more famous now because, like you said, anime is so much bigger now. The internet makes them so much more famous than they probably would be had they stayed sort of like an underground sort of niche thing. But now everybody's got they got their social media accounts and they've got their, constant updates about, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is the game I'm working on. This is the show I'm working on. It's just like, it makes them so much more accessible. And I get, kind of the financial hurdle that you have to jump over does sort of protect them from getting, just bombarded with, an endless, never-ending stream of people coming up to their table for, hours and hours and hours on end. If you have that sort of financial barrier, you can kind of control the crowd a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So I totally understand it from that perspective, too. Because now in this modern era, it's like it's very different than what you described. Like, the world you described is pretty much gone. Like, there are probably other niche subcultures that are still like that to this day, but certainly not here.
I guess that's part of the existential dread that I'm sort of coming to terms with. It was kind of a little club, and the club opened up, and that's great. Like, by all means, I don't want to be a gatekeeper, but I think that's something that is kind of lost in these discussions of quote unquote gatekeeping. Is there was something kind of special about it when it was just a smaller group of people that is kind of lost. And I don't really know how to reconcile that.
We only have ourselves and others like us to blame because we did start an anime podcast after all. We did start doing panels telling people to watch cool things, and gosh darn it, they actually listened to us. What a horrible thing for us to have done to ourselves.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think the people watching, whatever the new hotness, I don't think the people watching Attack on Titan 2013, My Hero Academia 2015, Demon Slayer in 2017, 18, whatever, and what is the new hotness now? I don't even know anymore what the new thing is. Like, I don't think those people are listening to our
Five
podcast.
Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, they're people watching Five Nights at Freddy's streaming. I don't think they're not the people going to our panels. It's just part of the culture now. It's become popular. It's become mainstream in a way that certainly has always kind of been true, but it's taken off exponentially in the past decade or two.
Yeah, their parents come to our panels because the people you're describing are between the ages of 7 and 12. So we talked about panel. I guess let's talk about panels a little bit. Tori, why don't you go? Tori, why don't you go first? Tell us about your panel experience.
Yeah. So I only submitted one panel because I also thought that I wasn't gonna be going, and it was my Junji Ito panel, and I don't know if it was just me. Bless you. Please leave that in. That scared me.
Scared? Junji Ito conversation? I sneezed. It was scary. Hey.
What was I saying? I don't know if it was just me, but that was like the toughest panel crowd I've ever had. I feel like I had a full house. I couldn't see from kind of my angle that I was sitting at and the way they had the chairs placed, but it looked
pretty
like
much did.
Okay, it looked like the room was full, which was good. I expected that. That was pretty cool. But like, other than like Kurt in the front audience, nobody was having a reaction to anything, and I was like, "What is wrong?" I usually I've ran this panel plenty of times, and I have plenty of like audience reactions. So I don't know, was it just late? Was everybody just tired? I don't know what, but it was like a very weird vibe in there. I don't know. It was a little cursed. But needless to say, I still had fun. It was still good. I love presenting that panel very, very much. And I had a good time. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's all that really matters. It was just a very weird vibe in there. I don't know. Was it just me?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't really notice anything hugely different from other times that you've done it, but I mean, you're the better person to gauge the vibe of the room anyway, because you can see. Well, you said you couldn't see, but you get a better feel for the audience than me just being amid the audience, I guess. So
yeah, I don't know. It was very strange, but
I don't know. Well, maybe because times have changed a little bit. I mean, when you started doing your Junji Ito panel, it was sort of like at the beginning of his sort of emergence into mass notoriety here in the States. So, and now we're a couple years into that. So maybe the temperature of people interested in Junji Ito has changed a little bit. Maybe there's something there with him being a lot more popular, and I don't know. Maybe people in the past were maybe just more enthusiastic and excited to hear about him, but now that everybody sort of knows who the guy is, maybe the excitement is a little bit more subdued. I don't really know. I'm just kind of speculating. I don't know.
But see, I still go to panels for things that like I know about and still find excitement in that. So I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I would guess that it is really just that crowd. Sometimes it happens. There are times where I do panels in the same year, and one can kill it. The jokes could be, people could be roaring with laughter, and I go to another convention, a month or two after, and they just are silent. They don't get the jokes. Yeah. I'm having to like,
you're probably right. I wouldn't sweat it too much. You're probably right, Tobias.
Somebody said that weekend on Blue Sky. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said it's wild that in 2023 panels for Junji Ito are bringing out more people than they do for Ghibli. Like Ito's becoming a bigger name than Miyazaki is, and
I think that was
15 years ago.
I think that was Lex Dunbar that said that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Was that a subtweet?
No, I think
No,
it was
no,
on
no,
Facebook,
no,
actually.
no,
Anyway.
no. It wasn't. It was
No,
it
not
wasn't-
about you.
It wasn't
No,
about
I
you.
know. I'm joking. I know that. I'm joking.
But I mean, it's crazy because like we like reading scanlations for like what Amigara Fault back in the day. This is the wild little horror manga that it was, Junji's Junji Ito character. He may be something one day, and now we've got Toonami is producing Uzumaki.
Uzumaki, yeah.
This huge thing. Like it's so wild to see how big that's come. So I don't think it has to do with the subject matter at all. If anything, it's just Saturday night's tough. You're fighting against the rave. Even AWA with all those people, you're fighting against the rave. And sometimes it is what it is. Sometimes it doesn't seem like the jokes are killing it. Sometimes, being in the crowd for both the Spider-Man panel and I went to Kurt's panel on Saban Entertainment. There's a lot of little snickers and giggling in the crowd at jokes. I wouldn't worry about it too much, honestly. It's a good panel, good content. I know you know what you're talking about, so it is what it is.
Sometimes people laugh, and then some people laugh inside their heart, and you don't always hear it. So
No, that's fair. No, it's fine. I just was like, wow. So, but yeah, that was all I ran, and I feel like I went to a fair amount of panels this year. But I didn't stay in a whole bunch of panels because I felt like I needed to keep moving. So I would sit at a little bit of a panel, and then I would get up, and then I'd walk around, and then I'd go into another panel, and then I'd get up and walk around. So the pieces of the panels that I did see were really good, and there were two that I missed that I really hate that I missed. And
which ones?
That was the Lane one, the one that was about Serial Experiments Lane, and then the one on the modern Japanese literature, because apparently it just seemed like something that I would really, really like. It was a lot of book recommendations of different genres, and I tried to go see if somebody in the Facebook group had went to it and could give me a list, and nobody replied. So that was kind of a bummer. I'm sure people went because it was very interesting subject matter, but I really would have loved to have known what they talked about.
Yeah, well, maybe somebody will finally get back to you. Who knows? But yeah. Speaking of panel, I mean, we were kind of in the same boat there, Tori. But a couple panels that I specifically want to shout out is going to Robbie, who you heard on the segment earlier, Bokusachi. His panel on anime glasses, absolutely hilarious. I don't think I didn't get a chance to see any of his panels back when we were in person in 2019, and I had only seen some of his panels whenever he had done stuff for Anime Lockdown and Virtual Nakacon, I believe. But man, he is such a talented panelist and extremely funny, very well written jokes. Just shout out to you, Bokusachi. I know you're listening to this because you're a sicko like that, but man, my hat's off to you. And Tobias, I think you saw some other of his panels, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's evolved since the last time I saw him. I want to say that 2017 or so, he did a mecha panel, a broad history of mecha panel, and that was what it is, a history of mecha panel. I didn't really think nothing bad, but nothing great about it. It was just kind of what it was.
This is a robot. This is a super robot. This is a real robot.
I mean, this was a few years ago, so I just remember it was fine. I enjoyed it, but the way he's done things now. You talked about the Megane panel. I sat in for a little bit on the baseball panel, and I sat through I attended the whole anime aesthetics panel, and I feel like he's got a formula, a very quick manner of speaking that makes the jokes land, especially when they're very dry jokes, and he keeps rolling through them. Very funny, very sort of, I hate to say formulaic, but again, I feel like based on what you said and what he said later, that the Megane panel and the baseball panel have very similar formatting between the two. Yes. And it makes very, very entertaining stuff. You're not really so much there to learn as you would be in a very, I guess, more dry sort of educational style panel. He's there to just throw a bunch of titles at you and get you interested in those titles, which is something, hell, I was just before the recording, I was listening to Bill's episode with Colleen Magarex, and Colleen brings something up that is in a TikTok. You're not really there to have deep critical analysis. You're there to recommend stuff and throw titles at people to go read. Here's a panel, go read it. Here's a manga you should read if you like this, go read it. And I feel like even in the anime aesthetics panel, which I did go to, while he has a point and there's a point he's making throughout the entire hour, in a lot of ways he's throwing titles at you and showing you, here's the different ways anime can look. Here's some Yuasa stuff. Here's like Kaiba. Here's Ongaku, and how that looks drastically different than something more traditional, something like, I don't know, Naruto or Demon Slayer or more shonen-esque. He's throwing a bunch of different things at you. And the little bit that I got to sit in on the baseball panel was very similar. And like, let's do some baseball jokes. Let's sort of work it in with the crowd. But basically, here's a bunch of shows, and even shows that have baseball episodes. He showed an episode of
Brand New Animal.
Yeah, well, I didn't see that.
Samurai Champloo.
I'm sure, but he showed Doremi.
Doremi.
Ojamajo
Doremi, yeah.
Doremi.
Doremi. Yeah, so he showed like it's a little bit of Doremi, for instance, and it's things like, hey, here's a bunch of things you probably haven't heard of that have baseball episodes, and I kind of get the impression that was the glasses panel, sort of like, here's some stuff.
Oh, very much so.
Different formats, different sort of tropes, different jokes they do with glasses and anime.
And the hilarious he builds in so much hilarious absurdity into the structure of the glasses panel, because he really went so he really put on a very how do I say this? He got super granular about every possible element of glasses and sort of made a bit out of it, like lens type, frame type, frame color, shape of the glasses, everything, and what glasses can mean for character design, and just everything, and made a huge bit out of just getting so granular with it. And also with that sort of cavalcade of content of like, here's like a sprinkling of like 200 different things just to get you kind of interested in it. And I guarantee you he did a better job convincing me to want to watch Megane Boo in showing just like a few clips from that dumb show than probably somebody talking to me 15 minutes straight about Megane Boo could ever do. And he only showed
Boo's
like
great.
But see, I wouldn't have known that, and now he's giving me like these little tastes of how absurd that is, and I'm much more interested now that he just sort of gave me that little sprinkling of like, here you go, here's this, chew on that for a second.
Yeah, it's a fresh sort of formatting through his panels, and it's kind of made me think about what my future panels could possibly be, going ahead. And I always like to brag on our friends. That's certainly not unique, but I told him there, I think that your anime aesthetics panel is one of the best panels I've seen in the past few years. It really, just the way he was able to, he didn't show any video in that clip, and that kind of initially struck me as odd. And you talk about anime aesthetics, you want to show animation. He even has a section about animation in there and bemoans the fact that he doesn't have time to show video. But considering the amount of information he did, and the fact the man did not stop talking in the hour that he had, like, he couldn't have shown video. And I thought it was honestly a better panel for it. Surprisingly, I never thought I would say that, but I thought it was a better panel for not having video really in there. So again, hats off to you, Robbie. I mean, great panel, great stuff. I think you've certainly evolved in the past few years since I remember seeing you way back in 2016, 17. Just keep working, man.
Totally. And another friend that we got to see a bit of his panel is NOS Anime, Andrew, who takes like a drastically different approach to paneling than we do and that Robbie does, but is equally so impressive because he's a historian by profession, I believe, and he does his Anime Foodies series where he does like some anime title that has food as a major component of the story. He will actually go out and get the recipe to recreate the food item meticulously and then talk at length about the process, about the ingredients, about the context within the show. And he's in this one he did about the Laid Back Camp movie. Very detailed, very minute, but really takes his time, really spends a lot of time marinating in the content. and actually does go out and makes the stuff in like a camping context, like in real life, to inform his research for the panel, which again is its own level of sicko nonsense that I can only aspire to. So hats off to NOS as well. Really great work there.
And while we're talking about people that we know and have talked to in the past, I did go to Kurt Great SG's History of Saban Entertainment panel, which I had missed. I don't know if he did it at Amazement. I don't think so. I know that I didn't go to one at Amazement. Unfortunately, due to scheduling, I didn't get to go to his Shoujo Rock Heaven, nor Awesomely Bad Music Videos, because we were in the car traveling that Thursday night. But
we're all deeply terrible roommates. At least I am, because I didn't get a chance to go to any of his stuff. So I'm sorry, Kurt. I love you.
No, I think you guys had a concert or something, a History of Saban. But I wanted to go to this because I'm a person that grew up watching Saban shows, and since I hadn't got to see this panel run before, and again, that was like a 2-hour panel, and again, it was just so chock full of information. And I mean, likewise, Kurt knows his stuff. He's done a lot of time to research this and put this stuff together. He's likewise sort of a man after our own heart as far as implementing videos and doing a really good slideshow as part of the presentation as well. So it was fun to revisit that stuff. And of course, something like Power Rangers, that was a big work for me back when I was 7 years old. But even going back and revisiting something like Grimm's Fairy Tales or Inspector Gadget, things I hadn't really thought of since forever, and learning a lot about these people, these names that I've heard in credits list for a while, and really informative, really great. Really enjoyed going to that.
What do we think of going to, somebody that we didn't previously know? There are panelists like that do exist. About going to that one guy's panel about running an anime group as an adult.
Yeah, I wanted to make a point to go to that because it's something that Austin and I have talked about various points over the past 2 or 3 years, trying to figure out the best format to put together a local sort of meetup now that we're firmly out of our college years and firmly have full-time jobs and not able to have all the free time. The slideshow was kind of basic, whatever, but I really wasn't there for the slideshow. A lot of these panels, I am there for the show, the presentation, but here it was just for the advice, the information. And now that I would say he presented very well. This is I want to say a dude and his partner. I want to say again. It was hard for me to hear from the back of the room exactly what was being said.
I don't know if that was his partner, but he said that
that's his friend.
The girl that was with him is both his friend and someone that attends his weekly anime nights.
Okay, just another response. Well, I know he mentioned in the big thing that when he does these events at his house, he cooks dinner and has people bring potluck sort of stuff. And that seems to me such a so obvious thing in retrospect, is to get anybody to come to things, you have to have food there. That is the surefire way to get people to show up, and something that I just really haven't thought of doing. It's been a long time since I've really stopped and tried to cook for other people. Just the past few years, the pandemic has sort of made me a little antisocial, and the kitchen in my current place isn't the best. So I really haven't. It's not something that's really crossed my mind, really. But if that were to happen in the future, I think that would certainly be a major point that I would pick up from his panel. Is make food, get people invested as part of that.
Yeah, and he did something that, whenever I think about it, it's so obvious, but I think is really important to remember when it comes to really any sort of friend thing or social event that you want to do. It's just like tie it into the bare, like whatever your thing is, tie it into those basic elements that make being around other human beings like enjoyable regardless of whatever you're doing. And a lot of times that comes down to food and just fellowship, just hanging out with people, having a good time, whatever it is that you're doing. And he really leaned into that part of the conversation, because I think it's obvious for us to think like, oh, if you want to run an anime group, you just, get some people together and you watch anime.
And watch anime.
Right. And like, of course that's a big part of it, but the thing that's going to last the longest, the thing that's going to be the most meaningful that people are going to remember, years from then, is like those human connections. And a lot of the times human beings make connections through food, and leaning into that part of the conversation is, I feel like, something, again, like you said, Tobias, is so obvious, but it can be really easy to forget. Because everybody gets hungry. Everybody wants to, share a meal with cool people, and that could be the most important thing that you do in a meeting, in like a meetup like that, regardless of whatever show you like, or if everybody's into it, or whatever. It's just like, lean into the basics. Don't forget the basics. Trying to think if there were any other panels that I went to that really stood out to us.
I jumped in and out of things really quickly. I talked about Robbie's baseball panel. I did have a little bit of time to get into Dave Merrill's anime co-productions panel, and it was stuff from the beginning of time. Basically, it was not the more recent things we think of as the sort of Netflix co-productions. Talking about some of the
when
more
the cavemen
initial...
when the cavemen were making their anime.
And informative as always. It's the bit that I got to sit in for was the old 70s and 80s sort of cartoons, almost like American cartoons that were just happened to be made in Japan. We think of the earlier stuff like the Rankin Bass, the Hobbit, the original Hobbit movie, stuff like that. And it was stuff that he said he had to dig and find clips for these individual shows. Always kind of fascinating, because he's again someone that's lived those he's lived during that period. Something that nobody here can really attest to. It's one thing for us to do research and do a lot of Google foo and whatnot to find this stuff, but Dave's got a huge collection of clips and information from back in the day that. I just hope gets archived somewhere. I feel like more and more of that older crowd, the older stuff, are just kind of being lost as time goes on.
You can count on Dave for a lot of things, but one of the things you absolutely can count on for sure is that he is going to be a media dumpster diver, especially from that 60s to 80s time frame. I went to that panel as well for the explicit purpose of giving him back his Animazement convention guides that he mailed me 2 years ago. And I gave it back to him in the exact envelope that he mailed them to me in. So I think he thought that was funny.
Other than that, there was a FF14 panel I went to that was kind of cool.
How was that?
So jumping into it, I was worried because the first thing I saw when I walked in that room was they were trying to connect to Wi-Fi to use Google Slides.
Oh no!
Yeah, so you know exactly what my worry were. So this panel's not happening, is what I was hearing. And the room was pretty high energy. There was cosplay there. There were one of the people I was sitting next to. He had the polygonal grapes that have become infamous from Walker. He had a whole costume for these little polygonal grapes. It was pretty funny. I was sitting right behind Irene and Gaia that I took a picture of and posted in our album. And that was cool. I got to talk with a more general Final Fantasy fan in line leading up to that. He never played 14 before. He just wanted to go to a Final Fantasy panel. So I hope he got something out of it, because that was certainly a 14 panel, not a general panel. So I hope he got something out of it, or maybe encouraged him to go play. But luckily, literally the minute the panel was supposed to start, they were able to get a Wi-Fi signal and actually present the panel. So the first half... Huh?
You bring up an interesting idea that I think about sometimes. It's just it seems like there's two types of Final Fantasy fans. It's Final Fantasy fans and then Final Fantasy 14 fans, and these are often not the same circle.
I mean, that could be said. I think there's a lot of different factions within the games. You've got, 7's the big linchpin for a lot of people out there. That is the big one, the one that sort of changed not only the franchise, but the gaming culture as a whole. There's a lot of people that are into 7 specifically. There's a lot of people that are only into the MMOs. There are people that won't play any of the 3D ones. They peak with 6 and they refuse to play anything after 6. Yeah, so there's a lot of different factions there. To be fair, like it's not just a 14 specific thing. Although, yes, the wave of acclaim for the game for the past few years since Shadowbringers has reached a fever pitch. A fever pitch, I think, is honestly the peak of it. We'll have to see what happens in the future, but I think the high point of, to be fair, as someone that is on a 14 podcast that still plays several times a week, still does community events, I kind of fear even that we've hit the peak of the game, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm still loving it. I'm still loving talking about it. And during this panel, the first half was the lore of FF14. It was a lore panel specifically. And the first half, they kind of just went through expansion, had some interesting little lore bits from this and that. It was kind of all over the place, but it was still fun. People enjoyed it broadly. The second half was more speculation about the upcoming expansion, Dawn Trail, that's going to be coming out next summer. A little bit of here's what we know, here's the different things that have come up about Tyrol and the new area. So let's speculate about what it could be. And that was interesting as well. I think they really knew their stuff. The presentation, like the guy that did the anime meetup, was a little sparser than I would do personally. But ultimately, you're there to learn the information, to take it all in. And I think they won bonus points for that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that even though it wasn't maybe the best panel ever, you still had a really good time with it.
It definitely encouraged me to go ahead and do one for whatever I do next year.
Well, there you go.
You're going to have to catch up so you can go to my panel next year. Get to it.
I will come anyway. Spoilers be hecked. So, we're about to wrap up this episode in our coverage of Anime Week in Atlanta 2023, but we got a couple questions from the Discord of things people wanted us to bring up. So, Bill asks, any interesting panels? We've already talked about that. 2, how was it getting around, he asks. Good enough. I mean, it was a little bit different than previous years. Like we said, registration was in a different place, and that was a little bit confusing, but it was really only confusing like the one time we had to go there. But, other than that, it's fairly normal getting around.
I will give them that. There were very few traffic issues, I felt like. They completely reversed the one-way direction they had going from the outside. It used to be that you had to leave from the Galleria to walk into the Waverly, but they've changed it now where you walk into the little hallway with the Waverly and walk outside and through the smoking area, around the smoking area. I was a little weirded out by that at first, but all weekend I can't think of a traffic jam situation I had. Traffic flowed smoothly throughout the whole thing, which is, I guess it's good that I didn't think about it during the convention.
True.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think only once we got caught in a group of people, and that was from coming out of a concert. So, that's to be expected. There was no real, congestion of people through regular convention traffic. So, yeah.
That was also on Saturday at 2:30 p.m.,
yes.
Which was the peak of busyness.
Yes, to be expected.
Yeah, for sure. And also, well, I guess the other major traffic jam was just the Artist's Alley in general.
Oh, always that corner.
Man.
Always that back corner. Every single year I've ever been, that corner just gets condensed full of people, and it's so awful.
Yeah, because the Artist's Alley they're packed in just as tight as the dealers are, pretty much. There's really no traffic space in addition to browsing space. They haven't padded it out with extra space like at all. I imagine to fit in as many booths as possible. And man, it really did impede. There were really moments where there would get a traffic jam in front of a specific booth, and then there would be people like behind you trying to get by while you're trying to like stand there and look at the artist's wares, and it could be a little bit frustrating, especially if there's like other people browsing there at the same booth that you want to look at. I mean, it could get a little squirrely, but hopefully at the next venue they'll have a lot more space to pad it out.
It didn't really seem like an issue in the dealers hall area.
No,
it was just the artist alley, and I feel like it's just because the aisles were a little more closely packed together, honestly.
I think one of the difference between dealers booths generally and artist booths is that like a lot of dealers booths, especially the larger ones, you actually like go into, like you go in between their shelves and things like that, and circle around inside of the booth. Whereas the artists, most of the time it's just a table. Like you just got to stand in front of it and look at their stuff. Bill also asks, common cosplays or ones that were unique? To answer the second part first, there were not that many like super unique, amazing like cosplays that like blew my mind. There were a couple like cosplays of characters that I really liked that I was excited to see, but nothing like mind-blowing or like earth-shatteringly cool or whatever, with the exception of like the themed Among Us cosplays.
Yeah.
There were a couple of Fall Guys. I saw 2 Fall Guys.
Yep.
Interesting enough. Yeah, there were a couple of funny mashups. There was, now that Trigon is back in style, what year is it?
Yep.
There was a couple of fun Vash crossovers. There was a couple Barbie Vash. I saw at least 2 Barbie Vashes, and that was kind of funny. And just a lot of weird ways to remix Trigon with other fandoms. That was kind of interesting. Somebody had a big old Dry Bones from Mario costume. That was pretty cool. I think I took a picture of that and threw it. I took a bunch of 14 cosplay. That was pretty unique, I would say.
That you did. Yeah.
Common cosplays, I Demon Slayer is still number 1. Well, Genshin Impact is number 1 by default, but that doesn't count since it's a Chinese game, not anime. But no, Genshin is still far and away the winner, followed by Demon Slayer, I would say. Baldur's Gate 3 really blew me away with the amount of cosplay. I know that's sort of taken off in a way that I didn't expect this year, but there were a ton of Baldur's Gate cosplay, a ton of Astarians. I want to say a couple of Shadow Hearts, I think the character's called. I haven't actually played Baldur's Gate yet, but I recognize those two.
You say that, and I feel like I would not be able to differentiate a Baldur's Gate 3 cosplay from a Final Fantasy 14 cosplay or from just like any other MMO that I don't know anything about.
Well, if you can't tell the difference between a Faerun, a character from the Forgotten Realms, and a character from Genshin Impact, that is on you squarely.
Oh, I said 14, not Genshin Impact. Well, I know what a Genshin Impact looks like.
Well,
do I know what a VTuber looks like? You got me.
I don't think I saw it. No, I saw a Corona. I know that, but that's the only.
There's the
VTuber
little shark. There's the little shark one that's always popular.
Gargura. Yeah, there were a couple of Gargura cosplays as well. That's true. Yeah, I want to say those are kind of the big standout to me was Baldur's Gate. Oh, and as Bill mentioned in the Discord, yes, One Piece is back in style. As they say.
Absolutely.
The TV
so much One Piece.
The Netflix absolutely did wonders. Like, sure, there's a lot of cosplay from the more recent arcs and seasons, but yeah, Buggy. There were tons of Buggies,
so many Buggies,
tons of Fem Buggies for sure. Just a lot of variations on the Netflix show. So it's One Piece has always been popular to a degree, but even more so this year for sure.
I feel like every time I saw a cosplay that I was pretty sure was Nami, it was always like the blue and white striped shirt that she wears in the Netflix show. And like I know there's like a tons of Nami looks and everything. But I saw that one specifically a lot, and I bet that was probably because of Netflix One Piece. Another big one was lots of Bocchi the Rock, but almost exclusively dudes dressed as Bocchi.
With beards.
Dudes with beards.
Yeah. And there was a group with the whole Kasoko band. They're all dudes with beards.
Yep.
I think I saw one or two actual girls, as Bocchi.
Yeah, a few. There's a few.
But certainly outnumbered.
By a significant margin.
Yeah. Oh, there was a free run at some point. I didn't get her picture, unfortunately, but I did see a free run from across the way.
Okay. Very nice. I hate I missed that, but somebody in the Discord posted a cosplay of a free run being eaten by the mimic, in the Discord, which is really, really funny. Just the guy was dressed as the mimic and had constructed free run's legs just kicking outside of the mimic's mouth, which is very good. I figured it'd be a little bit too early for anybody who's watching free run to cosplay for it at this convention, but I can't really get a gauge of how popular that anime is taking off, even though I know it's pretty highly acclaimed right now. But I'm deeply enjoying the manga, and I'm excited to watch more of the show because it's very good. But yeah. Ryan wants to know, how many times did Tori say "that's amore" during the weekend?
None.
None? Well, you gotta step that up.
That's amore.
It could be your catchphrase now.
Is that? I thought it was go outside and read a book or something like that.
I thought it was.
I don't know.
I need my chicken espresso.
Chicken espresso.
Stop liking anime, please.
Abby asks, how many 14 nerds did Tobias talk to?
Not as much as I would have liked. A lot of the cosplay, I'm the sort of introverted guy. I just want to get a picture of you and to move about my way and quit, interrupting your time. So I took a lot of pictures, but didn't get a whole lot of conversation. I will say that right after the panel, I did sort of just sit and chat with some people about, the current state of the game and what we've been doing. And it was funny because as I made my way after wandering back to the Junji Ito panel to wait, because I know we were going to head out together, one of the other people just happened to be there. We continued our conversation right outside the panel room, like 30 minutes to an hour later. It was kind of funny to have that. And I think once we recognized each other as 14s, I goes, let's just keep talking. What are you doing? That was cool.
Well, that's nice. That's really great. Ryan wants to know, how many K-pop fans did Tori talk to?
None. Unless you count my friend that was there with us, ?
Of course.
But I didn't go to any K-pop panels or anything like that, actually. And we didn't have time to stop by the K-pop store, so 0.
Well, I talked to one.
I want to say in the Toriana line, there was somebody with a Twice sweatshirt around us, and didn't you guys ask
that was
him?
Me.
Yeah,
I asked him.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The guy with the lanyard.
Yeah, I asked him where he got his lanyard, and he said he got it from the K-pop store. And I asked him if he went to the show, and he said yes, and he really liked it, and that he went to the show last year too, which we also did. And I
don't talk to strangers, so.
Well, I do, because I actively want to get abducted. That's a joke. Please don't steal me. No, I saw a fair amount of Twice shirts. I saw one shirt that was really cool. It might have been a tour shirt from the tour 2 tours ago, but it just had the Twice it was a black shirt and just had the Twice logo on the front, and then it had all of their names down the back, which very, very minimalist, something very similar to what I would want to buy if I were going to buy another Twice shirt. Let's see. Ryan also asks, did you find out why next year is in December? My speculation is that's the best date they could get.
Yeah.
Not really. I don't think that was a choice they actively chose so much as that's the only thing that was available to them. That is a very large change, and I am interested to see how it works out for them.
Will asks, I always want to know what the number 1 dominant cosplay was at the con. Again, we kind of already addressed that. Probably Genshin Impact, but Demon Slayer is still pretty popular. One Piece, all the big stuff that you would imagine.
Only a couple of Oshinokos considering the splash it made last year. I'm surprised there weren't a lot more more stuff from Oshinoko.
I saw more of the two kids than I did of Ai Hoshino.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw a Pun Pun.
Yep, saw Pun Pun. That was
kind of exciting.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I saw a Tomie, and she had made like a prosthetic face on top of her face. That was really impressive. A fair amount of Evangelion. I felt like I saw a ton of Eva. It's like everywhere. Saw a couple Lupin the Thirds.
Yeah, I mean it was a mix of a lot of stuff. You know, JoJo's still a thing all across the entire breadth of that series. I mean, it's just kind of a good mix of everything, honestly. Atlanta is a big city.
Yep.
So you're going to get a good mix of everything, really, at this con.
Lots of Jujutsu Kaisen, because I feel like that's like a really easy one for lots of people.
Yeah, that's another big one for sure.
I think that's about it. That's all the stuff that people asked us to talk about. So I guess I'll let you guys go. I detect some sleepiness among our ranks, and I definitely don't want to keep you longer than I deserve. So, yeah, thank you guys both for joining me on this another excellent convention recap, and had a really good time at Anime Week in Atlanta this year. Really glad that we were able to go to send off the Renaissance Waverly Cobb Galleria area on a high note. Really happy to have seen a lot of really cool concerts and to reconnect with some buddies and see them, folks that I hadn't seen in a long time, and of course hang out with you guys, which is always a pleasure. So looking forward to, if we're able to go next year, looking forward to what the new venue will bring and sort of the new opportunities there. So yeah, we'll just have to see.
I think I've covered my feelings pretty in depth about the change and about what it means to me and what this conventions mean to me, both this episode and the conversation we had a few years back when I first sort of talked about it. Yeah, it's a big change, a new chapter about the convention and my life as well. So I think you hit the nail on the head. We'll just have to see what life brings.
Yep, I'm excited to see the changes, and hopefully they have a smooth time working out any issues that are sure to arise with a new space, a new set of times, and new everything for them going into the event. And yeah, that's kind of it.
So where can people connect with you guys online? And if you have anything to promote, now is your time to do it.
Well, I think it's been a while since I've been on the podcast, I want to say, except for Grand Line Reborn, which a new episode should be coming out sometime soon. It's kind of in the editing bay. Things have been a little hectic lately, but
do you imagine it will be before January?
Yes, absolutely before January. Hopefully, maybe. Get back with me on that. But no, I am back on social media. I think is the big change. I am on Blue Sky now, which you all should be. And if you're not, you can hit me up for a Blue Sky code because we all have them now.
Yes, we do. Get these things away from me.
So many, please take them.
Yeah, it's not really so much of a walled garden anymore. I mean, it is technically, but if you need a Blue Sky code, hit me up because I can get you in. It reminds me of the earlier, slower days of Twitter. I can check it once a day and feel like I'm caught up rather than needing to be on it constantly all the time, which is nice. It's nice. I'm there. You can just search for Tobias McNabb. I'm sure you will find me, as well as the Third Impact account. So check me out there. Likewise, I have got another podcast. I'm part of the Awesome Cast now with the Carbuncle Chronicle. So maybe you're interested to hear a little bit more about FF14 and my experience with that. You can check that out. We do something like once a month now. I think we're kind of slowing down with Dawn Trail coming up, but we're still pretty active there. You can find me on the Primal Data Center on Leviathan if you want to play and hang out with us on the Third Impact Anime Discord, which is primarily where a lot of us do our talking and chatting on the regular, probably even more so than social media. We have a channel for 14, so if you want to join up and clear some content with us, feel free. Just tag us, and we'll make some time to help you clear some stuff.
Yeah, I'm mostly over in the Discord myself, and I'm on Blue Sky. My handle's the same. It's at Worst Waifu, and just been trying to slowly transition into using a new social media platform, and it's been okay. Other than that, I don't know. I'm in the Discord.
I'm in the Discord as well, and also on Blue Sky. I switched back to an old handle I used to use, so I'm no longer Bebop Shock on there. I am Ars Arcantum, which is a stupid play on words for Ars Arcanum, which is a super move in Kingdom Hearts. But instead of can, I'm can't.
Oh, you're a Kingdom Hearts fan? Wow.
I am. I dabble. It's kind of neat. It's something I'm just getting into for the first time. Anyway, you can find me over there on Blue Sky, but more importantly, you can follow the Third Impact Anime podcast over on our website, thirdimpactanime.com, where you can find an archive of this and every other previous episode that we've ever done. If you are ever curious if we reviewed a certain manga or anime that you are interested in. And you can also find our podcast on pretty much any podcatcher of your choice. With the exception of just a few, but we're on pretty much everything. We're also on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram. You can find us still on, I'll do episode updates on like Mastodon and Threads every now and again, and Twitter sometimes just to announce a new episode. But I pretty much stopped posting personal stuff up on my Twitter, so that's pretty much sunsetted. You can always find me on Blue Sky and in the Third Impact Anime Discord, which again is open to all. We only have one small channel paywalled for our Patreon subscribers. In that paywalled channel, you can find exclusive outtakes, not guaranteed to actually be funny, and you get episode announcements before everyone else and the opportunity to ask questions if we ever solicit them. Speaking of our Patreon is patreon.com/thirdimpactanime, where we have a few small tiers with a few minuscule bonuses guaranteed to our patrons. And if you want to support the podcast, that is the best way to do it. But really, even more than that, the best way to support this podcast is to just share it with a friend. If you have a friend who is looking for a cool anime podcast, well, give us to them instead. But thank you guys again for joining me on this episode covering Anime Week in Atlanta. It was a lot of fun. I'm happy to be back on the podcast. I hope that this can become more of a regular thing. I've had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life lately that has prevented me from doing the podcast as much as I would have hoped. But hopefully, even with the holidays coming up, I can get back into the regular groove of things, and that you guys will be there alongside me, which I always appreciate.
Free Run podcast win?
Free Run podcast, absolutely, coming 2024, almost certainly. I'm going to make that declaration here right now. I'm really enjoying that, and I want to talk about it. All right, folks, thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
Tori, say that's amore.
That's amore.